Hey everybody, everything new under the sun. A lot of news happening today, and it was too much. It was so much that I decided I just had to do a video and talk about some of the events that are occurring, coming fast, very fast, and very significant, and line right up with the biblical timeline of events. So there's some things that we expect to be coming. Um, we know that the four horsemen of the apocalypse will bring pestilences, famine, war. These are the seals in Revelation 6. And what do we see coming? Well, we see exactly that. It started off with the pandemic, and we're in a slow moving accident, basically slow moving car accident, and slow moving economic car accident, and job losses are occurring because of that. And because job losses, people don't have money to pay for anything. And so there's famine and starvation due to the lockdowns, due to other things, supply shortages all over the place. Most obviously in lumber currently right now. Of course, there was an attack on the oil line in the U.S., a ransomware attack. And there's another ransomware attack related to food shortages, which we're going to talk about. And as this is all is occurring, people will just get sick and tired. They're just going to stop loving their neighbor because they're just desperate. They're tired of all the trouble that we've been through. They're sick and tired, and the love of many will grow cold. And that's what Matthew 24 speaks of. And because iniquity shall abound, because there's sin all over the place, the love of many shall wax cold. They'll just lose all faith in humanity, and they'll just kind of look inwards, look towards themselves, and basically stop loving others. At that point, there's going to be mass chaos when it gets that bad. And so at that point, we move to a situation of government control. And what have we seen over the last few years? Well, a great demonstration of government control. And remember, the 7-year period, the tribulation, hasn't even started yet. And we've had complete government control worldwide, civilian lockdown because of the pandemic. So how much easier is it going to be when they just declare that they want to switch currencies, or some other issue is occurring? All of this is a lead up to the mark of the beast. All right, let's take a look at the news of the day, and we'll just discuss them briefly. JBS shutters all U.S. meat plants, and I believe they have about 23% of the supply of beef, as an example. As cyber attack jeopardizes food supply. So there was a ransomware attack, same as what happened on the oil pipe against JBS, and it shut down all their systems, whatever systems they are. It was enough to shut down the whole company countrywide. USDA has released an important update about the Biden administration's step to mitigate potential supply constraints and price surges following JBS ransomware attack. Now, there's going to be a price surge in beef, which is where these plants were mostly dealing with. And because there's a shortage of beef, that price of that will go up. But then, since there's a shortage of beef, people will be looking to other products, pork products, chicken products, and there'll be a shortage of those because there'll be a greater number of people kind of shifting over, saying, well, I can't get beef, so I'm going to go buy this. And so there's going to be a huge load of people moving over there. And then so you'll start seeing shortages in the chicken supply, in the pork supply, etc., on down the list. As resources are scarce, it's kind of an exponential rate at which everything else gets scarce. So you start with one resource which is scarce, people look for other resources to replace it. All of a sudden, those other resources that replace it become scarce because everybody's looking for them, and it just goes on down the line. So this is a big deal. And we know in Revelation 6, it does speak of a famine, where a day's wages will buy you a loaf of bread. It'll take a whole day's wages to feed you for a day. And that means times are hard. Now, if you watch the video today by, was it Star Academy, that I put in the comments section, the channel, what's it called? Anyways, the community section there. He spoke about gold and silver and how useful it was, or not useful in that case, in Romania during hyperinflation. And it was a very interesting listen. So definitely recommend you go listen to that. He has personal experience firsthand and secondhand from his parents and grandparents living in Romania during hyperinflation, during economic collapse, where there is famine, food shortage, money is worthless, etc. This is what the Bible describes as happening in the last days. All right, economic trouble. Larry Fink. Inflation will be a pretty big shock. It says, speaking at a virtual event hosted by Deutsche Bank, Larry Fink, who manages more money than the Federal Reserve, over $9 trillion, countered soothing talk that the soaring prices are here and gone tomorrow, and said investors may be underestimating the potential for a spike in inflation, suggesting that the cost of lumber will be here longer than you think. As an example, most people haven't had a 40-plus year career, it says, and they've only seen declining inflation over the last 30-plus years. So this is going to be a pretty big shock. He's speaking about other people who haven't had the history, who haven't lived through increasing inflation. The trouble with this is that interest rates may spike. So it says, unlike the Fed, Fink actually... Excuse me. Just had a cough there. Unlike the Fed, Fink actually knows what he is talking about. He began his career at First Boston Corporate in 1976 during runaway U.S. inflation, with a consumer price index hitting a high of 14.8 in March 1980 and forcing Volcker to hike rates as high as 20%. Inflation is a big deal. So what the Federal Reserve is going to do to try and limit this is they need to increase the interest rates. That puts pressure on spending and using credit and buying big houses. And that slows down people's credit, slows down the acquisition of debt, and hopefully brings under control inflation. So you have less free money kind of floating around everywhere is the idea. And this is going to come. History repeats itself, and that's exactly what's happening. All right, the other thing is wars and rumors of wars happening. We know Ezekiel 38-39, Gog Magog, is something that could very well be in the very near future. What do we just have happen? This is jpost.com. Disaster for Iran. As where's this? Let me see. Let me just move this up here. There it is. Disaster for Iran as its largest naval ship sinks. It's not clear if the fire was accidental. There's a fire on the ship, you can see. But tensions have loomed over the region for the last year amid reports of various attacks on vessels between Iran and Israel. Now, suggestions are that this is Netanyahu's last shot kind of at Iran before he leaves, and we're going to talk about that. But Iran suffered a humiliating disaster after its largest naval ship, which it calls a naval training support vessel, was destroyed by fire. The fire happened near the port of Jask as rumors circulated throughout the night. The disaster was confirmed by Iran's Tasman News, it says. Measures were taken to extinguish the fire. The trained personnel disembarked, but this sunk. This vessel sunk. Was it Iran? Was it simply that they had no money to do proper maintenance on the ship? It's hard to say, but some people suggest that maybe Israel had a hand in that. All right, over to Israel. And again, news that Benjamin Netanyahu is out. Not quite yet, but there is a new president also. So President Rivlin's been the president for many, many years, and now there's a new president who's just voted in by the Knesset. I don't think he oversees this election. I think Rivlin will still oversee this one. But there you go, president. There is a new president there, and they're expecting a new prime minister as well, and Netanyahu being out. So the other party, they were able to come together and create a coalition. They're actually making deals with the Arab Party now, which is kind of unheard of. A lot of Israeli citizens don't appreciate that at all. But they say that they put together a unity government. It's official. Just before midnight local time, the Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid of Yesh Atid Party notified Reuven Rivlin that he successfully formed a power-sharing government, which means the country's longest-serving prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, is out in bold letters. 71-year-old Netanyahu has long been dubbed the magician by supporters. for his history of being able to politically survive. And yeah, I've often said it's kind of miraculous that he survived time and time again through 4 or 5 elections, 4 elections, I guess, 12 consecutive years in the prime minister's role. And he's been there for a long time, and it's kind of been a miracle to me that he's been there. That's what I would call it. They call it a magician to be able to politically survive. But there you go. But Lapid, he thinks he's got a deal, and so he's going to take that to Rivlin. They're going to try and push this through. This is not done yet. Of course, all the articles are saying Benjamin Netanyahu is out. They're saying it's a done deal, effectively. They think this is going to go through. Lapid tells Rivlin, I have succeeded in forming a coalition with Bennett. Says a new governing coalition has been formed as it's prepared to replace Netanyahu. He said, I commit you, Mr. President, that this government will work to serve all the citizens of Israel, including those who aren't members of it, will respect those who oppose it, and do everything in its power to unite all parts of Israeli society, Lapid told Rivlin. Yamina leader Bennett, Lapid, and Ra'am, the United Arab List chairman, Mansour Abbas, signed an agreement at a meeting on Wednesday night at Ramat Gan's Kafar Hamakabaya Hotel in the first coalition deal ever signed by an Arab party. This is a big deal, and this doesn't bode well, I don't think, generally speaking. And a lot of Israelis don't like the precedent that the Arabs are really being pulled into this and being given quite a lot of power in government. Abbas, this Arab party leader, was added last minute demands Wednesday, today, but of course it's late there, if not tomorrow there. I'm not sure what the time is there, but they're ahead of us, obviously. So Abbas, this Arab leader guy, added last-minute demands following multiple conversations with Netanyahu after Netanyahu offered to cancel a law enforcing fines on illegal Arab buildings. So Netanyahu's doing what he can in the background, whether you like him or not, to stay in power. He's pulling strings, but it looks like Lapid is going to go ahead. So will this pass? So Rivlin is going to approve or deny it, and then it goes to, I believe, to Knesset to do the final vote on that to see if this party is able to hold power. And Yair Lapid becomes president, and Netanyahu is out. So very interesting stuff, and something we'll be watching over the next couple of days. Again, talking about why is this a big deal? Well, I've spoken of the 70 shepherds of Israel, and it seems to predict that Netanyahu is the last and final prime minister before the Messiah comes. Now, what Messiah? Is it Jesus Christ, or the Messiah that they're going to recognize who causes the abomination of desolation in the third temple? We don't know exactly. Point is that it predicts some sort of Messiah is going to come once Netanyahu's reign, if you will, is over, and we can go over that. I'll probably make a new video about that. But that's what we're watching, and it's very fascinating to watch what's happening in Israel. And as we move along this time scale, I think it's still potentially could happen. We could see the start of the 7-year period this year. A lot of things have occurred in the last 2 years, which of course have made everybody think twice about what is exactly is happening in this world. And then we have these ransomware attacks, which happened on the oil pipeline, now happened on JBS meat supply. How many other countries total, but also companies across the U.S., could they hit all at the same time with ransomware and effectively shut down the U.S.? They could. They've shown they can shut down JBS. JBS has shut down all its manufacturing facilities. They could do this at every other corporation. And in this day and age, every computer is connected to something, especially the internet. So this is a very soft underbelly of the United States and the Western world as well. And it looks like Russia is starting to poke at that now. That's who they say, at least, these attacks are coming from, especially on JBS. That was the news there, but we'll find out. So thanks for watching, guys. A little news update for you. A lot of stuff for watching. And the Lord's return is near, so I hope you know the Lord Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. He's coming soon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.